Great. And I am going to come back to my mat over here. And hopefully, if you don't have a yoga mat, you don't need a mat. You can just have clear a space that's about the size of a yoga mat. Okay. And let's come to sit on our shins. If that's not comfortable, you can stand on your shins. I know some of us might have knee pain. And I want you to bring I'll actually face you for this one. I want you to bring your hands to your ribs. Okay? All right. And I want your fingertips to just kind of wrap around the edges of your rib cage. Okay? Now we're going to start with belly breath. Laura mentioned belly breath. And then I'm going to teach you to breathe without the belly breath. So we're going to do what I don't want you to do first. All right. So inhale, you're going to push your belly out as you breathe in. Exhale, bring that belly back. And try that a few times on your own. Push the belly out and in. Okay, great. Now, instead of thinking about moving your core forward and back, I want you to think about expanding your rib cage out and in. All right? So this little bit of the belly or the front body that's under your fingertips, I want you to stabilize so the belly doesn't move forward and back. So we're going to stabilize the belly. Stay with me. And now inhale into the rib cage. Feel the rib cage pressing into the palms. It's really beautiful, that connection. And then exhale. Let the rib cage kind of fall away from the palms. Okay, simple, expansive breath. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Inhale. And exhale. Okay, release those hands. So, you know how sometimes you take a big breath and your shoulders come way up by your ears, right? That's actually not what we want to do to strengthen the diaphragm, right? We want to take it out from this up and down and bring it, as I said, into this expanding and contracting, right? So just keeping that in mind as we come back to the breath. And then go ahead and stand up. Okay. I'm so used to when I teach, I have this big screen that I'm looking at in front of me and I can see everybody. So it's kind of hard for me to be teaching. But luckily I can see Mia and Laura, so that helps. All right. So you're going to take one hand. I think I'll take my left hand, but you can take whichever one is more comfortable and you're going to wrap it around behind you and you're going to place your four fingers right on your spine, right? You feel the bumpy, bony spine, right? I told you we're just using layman terms today, right? Now you're going to move those your four fingers away from the spine. So if you have your left hand, it's going to move slightly out to the left. And then you're going to, and if it's the right, it's the opposite. And then you're going to press down into the places under the fingertips. All right. So this is so cool, right? We're getting into the multifidus muscles here. You're going to lift that right arm up. You feel it? I just think that's so cool, right? That when I lift my arm, I feel the muscles in my back, right? I'm telling you, it's all connected. Inhale and exhale. And then go ahead, just give it a try on the other side, right? So again, find those four fingertips of the other hand and then move it out to the right and then press a little bit more pressure underneath those fingertips and then inhale and exhale. Okay. All right. So we've got the diaphragm, which is the ceiling. We've got the multifidus, right? Pelvic floor. So let's come to our shins. If you have your V-Vision mirror, who knew it could also act like a yoga block? It can, right? You could place it between your thighs. This is a nice if you were, well, actually, nobody can see you, so maybe you don't have your pants on, right? This is a great time to do it. Why not? Right? Um, I luckily do have my pants on, so I'm just going to use the V-Vision mirror to hug the negative space between my thighs, right? That is really the step one. Just learning how to engage the negative space in between your legs is a great first step towards finding your pelvic floor. And then we're going to go back to all these things that Laura described and cued in that great slide with the swings, right? So I want you to find that lifting in and up, right? That voluntary contraction, right? And then release it, right? That relaxing. Inhale, lift it in and up. Exhale, release. Okay, now could you add the expansive breath? I mean, it's like what tapping your belly and rubbing your head, right? It's where this is what makes it more fun, right? Instead of just doing Kegels, right? You're trying to bring the whole core into the work, right? So draw those inner thighs together, hug the negative space, and then maybe put your hands on your ribs, right? Now, lift your pelvic floor, that hammock of muscles between the coccyx and the pubic bone. Pick it up and press your ribs into your hands as you fill with breath, and then exhale, release. Okay? All right. Set the mirror aside. All right. So we've got the floor, the ceiling, right? Pelvic floor, diaphragm, multifidus muscles in the back. Now we're going into the transverse abdominals, right? Which is the sides of our core and coming right into the front of the core. All right. Of course, there's a few more muscles that go on, but we're talking about the really deep intrinsic core here. So I'd like you to come onto your sit bones. Grab the front of your ankles and bring those heels as close to your sit bones as you can. I like to come up onto the balls of my feet as I roll down. I think of every transition on my mat as an opportunity to engage with my core. Oh, this just feels so nice, especially after the long day, right? So take a moment, take a big breath on the mat. Okay, take your first two fingers in both hands and find, I'm going to call them hip points. I'm sure there's a more technical term, your AIS, right? You're going to bring those two fingers to the hip points. And then you're going to bring those two fingers about 2 centimeters in and 2 centimeters down. Okay. Now you're going to press in to those fingers until you can find uh, a, to the texture of a muscle, right? Okay. And you say, Georgia, I'm not sure I got it. Just trust it. Yes, you do. Just press down. Now watch this. We're going to lift the left knee up over the left hip. And you're going to feel the contraction under those left fingertips. And then you're going to exhale, bring that left knee down, or left foot down, excuse me. And then inhale, press into the right fingertops, pick up your right. These are your transverse abdominals, right? Deep down in your core. All right, one more time each side, and then inhale, left knee up over the hip. Exhale, left foot down. One more, inhale, and exhale. Okay. Release the hands, palms up. Let's bring our feet to the outer edges of the mat and let the knees touch. You're going to bring your hands to your rib cage. And what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to start our little short movement flow with that expansive breathing. All right. So hopefully I'm going to be able to share my music. I love to add, it's really nice to practice on your mat without music, but it can also be really nice to add the music in. It really helps us, it helps me, and I think it helps a lot of people relax, kind of get out of our minds and into our bodies. All right. So keep going with that expansive breath. See, isn't that nice? Okay, and just, it's so important to realize, right, that by lying here with your hands on your ribs and finding this expansive breathing, you are strengthening your core. You are strengthening the diaphragm, one of the most important muscles in our body. It gives us the capacity to breathe. Slowly let the knees come apart. Heel toe the feet in line with the hips. Take those first two fingers and find the transverse abdominals yet again. So remember, first two fingers on the hip point, 2 centimeters in, 2 centimeters down. Gently press down, and we're going to inhale, lift that left knee up over the hip, and exhale, step it down. I want you to think about, as we do this, you're going to alternate, right? So inhale, right knee up over the hip. Exhale, step it down. As you are doing this, I want you to start to send, remember how, keep going, keep moving, left knee and right knee, keep going. And I'm going to talk now. You're going to, remember when Laura talked about the sacrum, right? That flat circular bone at the base of the spine. I want you to press the top of the sacrum into the earth, and you're going to get this posterior tilt in the pelvis as you lift the knees over the hips.
Don't worry.
Oh, and don't forget, right? We're still breathing that expansive breath, right? This is why, even though the movements are so subtle, right, and simple, it's actually quite a lot of coordination. It's a lot to think about. But what we do is the more we practice it, the more it becomes reflexive. So that when you move, right, anytime you pick up your knees, you start to engage from the core in this really mindful way. All right. One more time each side, and then set both feet down. I want you to walk your heels a little bit closer towards your sit bones if you can, and then press the four corners of the feet into the earth. Continue with this posterior tilt of the pelvis. You say, Georgia, I don't know what that means. Well, you remember posterior is the back, right? So if you think about that pelvic bowl that Laura showed us, we're tipping the water out of the back of the pelvic bowl, right? You're pouring it out behind you. And then in that movement, lift your pelvis up towards the sky. Okay, now remember how I talked about the negative space between the thighs, right? And how that's a precursor to engaging the pelvic floor. I want you to hug the negative space. Imagine that mirror or yoga block is there. Hug gently. Now lift the perineum, lift the pelvic floor, gentle contractions. You're expanding in the breath. Oh, it's so much going on, right? Things are happening on really subtle levels. Right? Think about all the possibilities, right? What comes to mind right now are the 800 nerve endings in the clitoris. Breathe, expand, lift your 10 toes. 5 more breaths here. Think about the ceiling of the core, the sides of the core, the transverse abdominals, and the pelvic floor. And then as you exhale, let's release the hands, palms face up. I'd like you to let that upper spine roll down, the middle spine roll down. And then the top of the pelvic bowl, the back of the pelvic bowl comes to the earth. The sacrum comes to the earth. And then you release all pelvic tilt completely. So it's just a neutral spine. Bring the knees into the chest.
There's a man
Hug the knees in. Kindly use the legs to pull yourself up. And cross your ankles, hands out in front of you. We're going to step right into a tabletop pose.
battle lines being drawn.
All right, so let's get into that multifidus, right? The back muscles here. Now, when I say we're getting into that, we're not letting all the other parts of the core go. We're just adding on. We just keep adding on. It's like pack my grandmother's suitcase. All right, so just from here, I want you to lift your left shin and knee off the ground. Now, what I don't want you to do is lift it way up, right? So it's not like this. It's more mindful. It's more subtle. It's really isolated. You pick up the left thigh. Pick up that left shin. Your core engages, and you drop it down. Now, right side, pick it up and release. Keep your pelvis level. Wear it off to the earth. Pick it up, left side and lower. Right side and lower. Okay, we're adding on. Pick up that left leg. Extend the left leg long. Back behind you. Flex the foot. Okay, now did that left hip come up? And drop it down. Okay, find the negative space between the legs. Hug it. Pick up your pelvic floor. Breathe into your rib cage. Maybe you stay here, or maybe you start to hug that left hand and right shin. Left hand and right shin towards each other. You bring your right hand up towards your left shoulder. You say, oh, my core is holding me in place. You want a little more? You send that right arm forward. We're going to hold for 8. Breathe. Expansive breath. Pelvic floor lifts. If it ever becomes too much, you place your right hand back down. This is the work. Right here. It's subtle. Right hand comes down. Listen. Kickstand is how I like to call it on that right shin. Open your hips and open your shoulders. Bring that left foot to the ground and just release yourself. Let it all kind of hang out. Inhale and exhale. Come back to the tabletop for the second side. Find equal weight between the hands, between the knees. Okay, guys, press down into that left shin and pick up the right shin just about an inch off the ground, but keep the shape and don't let your right hip rise higher than your left hip, and then drop it down. Now press down into the right shin and lift the left shin off the ground and lower down. Okay, again, and lower down. Left side and lower down. This time, lift that right leg and extend it back behind you. Flex through the right foot. Find more weight into your right hand. Level through your hips. Level across your shoulders. And then if you'd like to, bring that left hand to your left shoulder. If you want a little more, extend that left arm forward. Hug that right hand and that left shin towards each other. This is the work from the inside out. Pick up your pelvic floor, expand into your rib cage. Think about those transverse abdominals, right? Think about that posterior tilt of the pelvis ever so slightly. 5 more breaths. Breathe with it. 3 more. 2 more. 1 more. Left hand down, right knee down. Oops, sorry. Kickstand on your left shin. Open your hips and open just to release the work. And now bring both right hand and right knee down. Cross your ankles. Move your way back down onto your sit bones. Move your sit bones and your heels towards one another. Once again, grab the front of the ankles. Drag the balls of the feet back as you roll your way down. Here we are. Find your hands on your rib cage. All right, everything's coming together here. Pick up your pelvic floor. Expand your ribs into your hands. Find the strengthening of the diaphragm. And then I want everybody to find that posterior tilt in the pelvis. Engage your transverse abdominals. Press down into your heels. Pick up your hips. Pick up your hips. Reach your hips higher. Hug the negative space. Reach the arms up to the sky. Reach the arms overhead. As you exhale, we're going to roll the spine down. So upper spine, middle spine, lower spine. Comes down to the earth, then you release the pelvic tilt. Take another breath in and then exhale, hands by the hips. All right, again, inhale, hips lift, arms lift, breathe in. Exhale, stay with me, guys. Everything out, push all the air out of the mouth. Now seal your lips and don't breathe in, but pretend to breathe in and contract your pelvic floor. As long as you can, hold that as you lower upper, middle, lower back. Eventually, you're going to have to breathe in. The sacrum comes to the ground. Fill your lungs with breath and then exhale. Bring your hands down by your hips. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information. It's one of those things that you just do it again and again. We're going to try that one more time, and then we're just going to come back to the breath, all right? So inhale, arms overhead. Exhale there. Don't worry about whether you're doing it right or wrong. Just stay with me and see what happens. Inhale, lift the hips. Trust that all the parts of the core are going to engage on their own. As you exhale, push all the air out of the mouth. Seal the lips, hold empty. Mock breath in, pretend to breathe in as you lower the upper back, middle back, lower back, and when the sacrum hits the ground, breathe in. And exhale, hands come down by the hips. Walk the feet to the outer edges of the mat. Let the knees fall together. Bring your hands to your rib cage. We're going to end with 8 breaths right here. So inhale, pressing the ribs into the palms, maybe gently picking up the pelvic floor. Not a really deep contraction, just a gentle lift. Think about the softness. Exhale. Inhale, lift. So bring all the awareness to the floor and the ceiling. And exhale. Take 3 more rounds, just like that. So the next time the next time you think about strengthening your core, right, strengthening your pelvic floor, you don't have to just think about doing Kegels, right? Just lying on your back and in these really interesting ways, engaging with yourself, right? Through the breath, through the movements, through the hugging of the negative space, through the drawing of the in and the up. And then allow your hands to fall away from your ribs, palms face up. And let the knees come apart and just let them fall to the right. And then inhale, bring the knees back up to the sky. And exhale, let them fall to the left. Come back up through center. Then draw the knees into the chest. And then slowly use the tension of the knees pressing into the hands to pick yourself up. So, really using as little effort as possible. And finding your seat. Let's take a little bit from Laura and just put your hands underneath you and find those sit bones, right? And then land them on the ground. I like to do this movement a lot, right? That kind of engages my whole pelvic floor. And then find that drawing in and up. It's not so much a contraction, it's just a hey, I know you're there, right? That's what you're really looking to bring into your everyday life. Hey, there it is, pulling it in and up, right? And finding this breath expansion. And then we're going to turn it over back to the whole team and have some Q&A. So thank you so much for moving through that with me. I'm going to turn it back to Mia.